I wanted to read some verses here from the book of Job. I'm going to be doing a few videos where I talk about different passages from the book of Job. Here I'm starting off with Job chapter 2. This is after a number of calamities have already befallen Job. He's lost everything. He's lost his children. A lot of his people are gone. His wealth is gone. And here he is in terrible, terrible trouble. And start off here with verse chapter 3. This is where Satan is trying to convince God to let him do even more against Job, right before Satan afflicts Job with illness and boils. Then the Lord said to Satan, "Have you considered my servant Job? There is no one on earth like him. He is blameless and upright, a man who fears God and shuns evil, and he still manifests his integrity, though you incited me against him to ruin him without any reason." It's important to accept, acknowledge, and understand that, when calamities befall people, it's usually not due to anything that they did, and I think we all know that, but sometimes we need a reminder that there's a lot of bad things that happen in the world. There are bad people who do things. There's Satan who likes to cause trouble for people. There's just a physical world itself can be a real challenge, and very difficult things happen to people, and not through fault of their own. But in a case like Job here, in spite of everything that he's suffering, he is maintaining his integrity, and he continues to profess his faith in God. He continues to bless God and say the things about God that he knows by faith, even though everything is falling apart. As we said, children have died, his people have been killed, his wealth is taken away, he himself becomes ill. He continues to maintain his integrity before the Lord. Going on to verse 9, his wife said to him, "Are you still maintaining your integrity? Curse God and die." She's there suffering alongside him. Very difficult for the both of them. And there's something in the translation here. It says here, "curse God and die." The original Hebrew says, "bless God and die," but kind of in the context of what she's saying, how she's saying it, and how Job responds, we can take it that she is inciting Job to say something negative towards God. Whatever the original wording was, I think this is a good way to understand it. This "curse God and die," it kind of tells us the idea that she is imparting towards Job. And see how he answers here. He replied, "You are talking like a foolish woman. Shall we accept good from God and not trouble?" In all this, Job did not sin in what he said. So he is taking that stand. He's going to have plenty of time to be troubled and to go over things in his mind, to talk things over. And as we'll see going through the book of Job, yes, these things are very troublesome for him, and he has a lot of questions. He has a lot to wonder about, and it's very, very hard on him. But at this moment when he needs to be strong, he needs to say the right thing, he comes through and he makes that profession. He continues to make these professions of faith, these professions of the goodness of the Lord in spite of all that's happening, and that's really important. Sometimes just being able to say those words, it can be a strength to you, a strength to the person next to you who may also really need that support, as we see here in this case. And it's something that it has real value. I want to point out one more thing, going back a bit to what the Lord says about Job and his integrity. It reminds me of when Jesus talks to John and giving him these messages to the 7 churches in Asia. He commends them again and again and again for their strength. He says, "I know your works. I see the things that you're going through. I see your persecutions. I see that the things that you are suffering for my name." Jesus commends these people a lot, not because they're perfect, but because he sees what they're going through. He sees what they're trying to do, and he sees their efforts. Like he says, "I know your works." It's a very touching, dear thing, the way the Lord sees people, and he commends them for the good that's in them. In spite of their misunderstandings, in spite of their weaknesses, the Lord is looking for the good. Moving on, I'm going to read one more verse here from chapter 2. In verse 11, When Job's three friends, Eliphaz the Temanite, Bildad the Shuhite, and Zophar the Naamathite, heard about all the troubles that had come upon him, they set out from their homes and met together by agreement to go and sympathize with him and comfort him. I love this part of the story, how these people come together and they go to see Job. It's just very human. It's a good example there, just this part in how these people react, how these friends of Job react, how they hear all what's happening and they immediately go to him. In spite of the danger, they've been his lands have been raided, his people have been killed, his sons and daughters have died in a storm. He is sick with a terrible disease, and in spite of all that's going on, they get together and they immediately go to be with Job in this time of trouble. When they saw him from a distance, they could hardly recognize him. They began to weep aloud, and they tore their robes and sprinkled dust on their heads. Then they sat on the ground with him for 7 days and 7 nights. No one said a word to him because they saw how great his suffering was. I really like that. The way that they treat Job, the way that they are there for him. And in something so severe as what Job is going through, there's just really nothing that can be said to him. So what do? They're just going to be there with him. They're just going to sit there with him. They're just going to mourn with him in silence. And it's quite a powerful story, this whole story, and this part of it is very touching. It's a very powerful thing, just the way these people, they hear about what's happening to Job, they go there to be with him, they don't try to say anything to him, they just sit with him in silence and grief for all that has happened to him. Well, thanks for watching. Please let me know what you think in the comment section below. I'm going to be doing some more videos talking about the book of Job and the wisdom that we get from it, from what Job has to say, from what his friends have to say, what Elihu, and then finally what God has to say, and just some things that we can get from this amazing story. I'll talk to you again later. Bye for now.